right. I am thrilled to introduce my next season 5 guest, Anna Reisdorf. She is a registered dietitian, nutritionist, and freelance writer with 12 years of experience, 12 years in the field of nutrition and dietetics. She is the founder of a content agency made up entirely of registered dietitians called Reisdorf Writing Services. She also teaches other RDs how to become freelance writers. Thank you, Anna, for joining me today.
Thank you.
Yeah, Anna and I go pretty far back now. We met in a Facebook group initially, and then we had the same business coach, and here we are. And she's over in Nashville, Tennessee, and you guys know I'm in Maryland, and it's just the power of these online connections, right?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. So before we get into the talk about your business, I am curious, and it can be a personal thing or a business thing, but what is one thing about you that most people don't know that you wish they did?
Well, one thing about me that I really like is that I am an avid video game player. I carve out an hour a day for myself for my games, and that is between 4 and 5 p.m. when before the kids go home while dinner is cooking. That is
Okay.
the time where I play my video game. And the current one that I am obsessed with is called They Are Billions. It is a SimCity game where you prepare for a huge zombie horde to arrive.
Oh
So at the
my
end of the game, you've built up your whole little city,
God.
and then thousands of zombies come and attack your city. So that is my self-care for the day that I think a lot of people don't realize, maybe.
Well, that's funny that you bring it up, video games, because my husband is a gamer, but I like to play VR games. So I just got a Quest not too long ago. So I do events and stuff, but I like to play the VR games. My husband was like, "Ooh, the PS5 is coming out." And I'm like, "Well, unless you plan on getting me a headset for it." And he was like, "Why would I do that?" I was like, "I finally have games where I can take a controller and wave it around like a sword. I've been waiting for this my whole life." I was like, "So I'm not interested in that PS5 unless you get me a headset." But
Yeah, the
that
VR is
is
pretty fun. We have a headset too, so.
yes, yeah, it's fantastic. I get and that's part of my self-care. I actually do VR exercise app.
It's like really hard.
It is,
So
but
even
it's
the game,
so
like
fun.
just like dripping sweat.
Yes. Yes, I am. But it's been a lot of fun. I've already lost some weight and I'm like, this is great, because I look forward to it and I don't notice. But
Yeah,
I also read
absolutely.
an article about the FDA approving the first prescription video game for people
Really?
for kids with ADHD. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, see, I like that, it's out of the box thinking right there. I don't know what it's going to do. And of course, the business side of things, but thinking, okay, well, what if your doctor prescribes it, but let's say you don't have the money for a game system? Like what happens? So
Sure.
I think those will be questions that they have to answer in the future. I feel like the insurance companies are going to be like, you want us to pay for what?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Anyway, so please tell us how you got into writing. Like, how did you start your business? And then I know you have a couple of different revenue streams that we'll be talking about later too. But how did you get started with writing?
I always wanted to be a writer. I just thought that I had to, like, you had to like write a novel or like, I don't know, like in my early 20s, I thought, oh, I should be a writer, but like I didn't really understand what that meant. So I got interested in like fitness and health and kind of flailed around for a little bit after college and did a bunch of different things and then decided to go back to school to be a dietitian. And, I did that for many years, for 5 or 6 years. I worked in pretty traditional RD jobs. I just kind of like worked in the hospital. I taught at the university for a while. I counseled people who were getting prepared for weight loss surgery. And then in like 2012, I was like just burnt out. I was over it. Like I thought that working at the hospital was lame. Like there wasn't anywhere to move up. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was it. Like either you were the director of the dietary department or you were an RD. Like they don't hire RDs to like go into administration. It's like usually nursing. So there was like nowhere to go. And I was just kind of like, I'm gonna do this forever. Like this sucks.
Yeah, I
And it's
empathize.
really, Yeah, it's very repetitive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like order a boost, order a chocolate boost, order a strawberry boost. Like it's kind of boring, to be honest with you, in the hospital. And at the time, like there was a lot of personal stuff going on. I was like in this relationship that I needed to get out of and I couldn't. And my mom got diagnosed with breast cancer.
Oh,
And
geez.
she was going to go to Brazil for her treatment because that's where she's from.
Oh,
And so I was like, I can take FMLA off my job and I can go to Brazil with her, like
mm,
to care for her with her breast cancer treatment. So I
yeah.
did. I just left and just went to Rio and spent 3 months helping my mother and doing yoga on the beach and like just trying to figure
Uh,
out my business.
uh, I mean, I'm glad that you were able to be there for your mom, first of all,
Sure.
but yoga on the beach does sound nice
It
in
was nice.
Rio. I
It
mean, if you
was.
have to go through medical treatment somewhere, that sounds like a nice place.
Yeah, it was great.
Visually it's relaxing, right?
It was great. So during that time while I was there, I was like trying to explore this writing thing a little bit. And I had met another dietitian who online, because I
Mm-hmm.
was following her blog, and she told me that she was making full-time money traveling the world, writing for Demand Media. I don't know if you ever wrote for them back in the day.
Mm-mm.
It was a big like content mill that was hiring healthcare professionals of various kinds to write for like Live Strong,
Oh.
Nest, and like they would just crank out these like really kind of crappy articles.
Yeah.
And you
I
would get
always wondered where Livestrong got their stuff. If I'm being honest, I always wondered where their stuff came
Mhm.
from. I was like, I could have done this.
Yeah, they were like 300, 400 word articles. Like each section had to be like 2, 3 sentences. Like they
Yeah.
were very brief,
Mm-hmm.
and they paid $30 an article. And I applied and I got accepted, and I was getting paid to write. And I was like, oh my god! So I would sit there and
Yes.
write 10 of those a day. You know, just crank them out all day. And you know, I eventually had to come back from Brazil and I went back to doing dietetics like part time, but I still kept building this writing thing. And
Mm-hmm.
so then, like, that's kind of when Elance, which is now Upwork, came up. And so I got on there and then I got like a few clients. One of my first clients was Dr. Axe when he first got started.
No
So this is
way.
one of his very first writers from Elance. And so it just like kind of snowballed through there. And it wasn't until my son, who is 4 now, was born that I was like, okay, I'm going to do this like full time, because I was always still kind of working as a dietitian in various ways and then doing the writing on the side. So that's when I started doing it full time. And over the last 4 years, since I've had my kids and everything, it's become a 6-figure business for me. Like I have writers who work under me. I teach other dietitians how to be writers. And it was just like a little bit at a time, you know, go from a $30 article to a $50 article to a $100 article, you know, just little steps here and there, and bigger clients and more clients, and build the relationships. And it's been awesome. It's been awesome.
Yeah, and in some of the same, we're in some of the same groups, and I see that like you comment a lot of the same things that I comment, because I'm like, yeah, you know, just up, 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 you just edge up. Don't feel bad about what you're charging now, but if you know that you want more, then just make that plan to get to more,
Yeah.
and you can't go from $30 to, $800. But I see that like there's a lot. So when I started to go full time, it was after I had my daughter. Like we have a lot in common.
I know.
So who are your ideal clients, right? So we talked a little bit before we started recording about how there are a lot of websites, a lot of clients out there who are looking for people who write what you write about, but in that multitude, there's a lot that you would not want to write, right? A lot of them you wouldn't want to write for. So when you're thinking of your ideal client, what does that person look like?
I think it's a person who kind of understands what a registered dietitian does and
Mhm.
like the value that a registered dietitian provides, because there's so much health and nutrition content out there, and some of it is fine and some of it is just complete garbage. um, so for me, like and my team, we really do the research. We know what we're talking about. We have the clinical experience also to bring to the writing.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of my clients are supplement companies who really want to leverage our expertise into, making more sales for their supplements. A lot of them are other registered dietitians who are focused on like their private practices. And so they don't want to waste their time like hiring, a student or somebody
Yeah.
who's not trained to write their articles, because then they're just going to have to rewrite them and like edit them and it's not going to be correct.
Right.
So that kind of thing. And then, those are kind of the two main people that we work with. And it can be other nutrition professionals sometimes, like Dr. Axe is, I think, a chiropractor.
Mm. Was
You know,
he? I had never ever found out what he did.
I think he's a chiropractor. Um, so other like nutrition professionals or health professionals like that.
Mm-hmm.
But those are, it really is the people who value what we can bring to the table and care about it being accurate.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And I think that a lot of clients, when they're initially looking for writers, they underestimate that piece you mentioned about how people don't want, like, these registered dietitians, these companies, even though they know the stuff, they don't want to get content from a writer and then have to edit it heavily. I mean, I'm sure you've had some experience with this yourself, and I definitely have, because I, work with writers too. But getting something that you then have to edit to make it, like, not light edits either, like you have to like break it apart, rearrange it, and you're like, what were they even talking about here? That is more like, I've gone in, I did one where I got like a paragraph and a half in, and I was like, it would be faster if I just wrote this myself. Just never
Yeah.
mind.
I
Like,
have one client who wants me to kind of do these SEO revisions on articles that already exist.
mm,
And sometimes I'm just like, I can't, I'm just going to rewrite the whole thing because none of
yeah.
this is accurate.
Yeah,
None of
that's always tough, because sometimes they're like, oh, it'll be so much work, and can we work out like a per article rate? And it's like, I can't give you a per article rate for the whole batch, but maybe if we do it in batches of 5 or 10 and you give me 5 or 10 to take a look at, then I can give you a project rate for those. Because sometimes if they've had multiple contributors, right, then like the first 5 you do, you're like, okay, this is not so bad, this is cool. And then like the next 5 you do, you're like, oh my goodness, like, were they drunk when they wrote this? No, that's not nice. But maybe they're just not very good writers, right? So if they're
right.
not very good writers, or maybe they've got brilliant people at their company who have English as a second language, maybe. There are lots of different things that can make it difficult. So before I was a writer, I worked as a translator. So I've actually had a client like that who had a contributor who was clearly an expert in what they did. But when they were writing, there were patterns in the writing where I could tell, was like, hey, this person did not know English as a first language. And then it came out, yeah, they were a second language. And it wasn't super bad, but the differences, the changes I had to make, they were a bit subtle but important at the same
Right.
time, so
Sure.
there's different levels of effort for sure for
Yeah.
that editing
Some
piece.
of some of them are just factually inaccurate.
And that's definitely a mistake that you can't have. you know
Like,
you
where
can't
does the
have
person even get this information from?
that. So again, you have different arms of your business. So I did want to ask, I mean, even as quarantine is beginning to wrap up, I've seen some speculation that we may be experiencing a second wave and people have quarantine fatigue and blah, 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 whatever, all this different stuff. And that's what I mean by blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of different stuff from everywhere. So not that none of it matters, but there's a lot of it. But how has quarantine impacted your business, if at all? I mean, like, I think some gyms are starting to open up again, and so some things are happening again. But how has it impacted your business?
Well, it didn't really impact my income. It impacted my personal stress and ability to do my work. Um,
Yes.
I actually, in March and April, had like pretty, and even May had like pretty normal income months, like consistent, 5-figure months, like I had. Um, but my kids came home March 16th,
Me
and
too.
yeah, and they were home, and they are 4 and 2, and they are
Oh,
boys.
okay.
And I cannot work with them here. Like not even a sentence, not even a word, like maybe an email on my phone if I put them in front of Paw Patrol for, 20 minutes. But even then they try to wrestle or kill each other or do whatever they're doing.
Yes. Yes.
So, so I basically went from being able to work full time because they were full time in daycare to not being able to work at all. So my husband works from home too, but he's on calls all day.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just me and the kids all day. So I would work from 5 to 7 a.m. and then I'd try to get an hour in at nap time.
Mm-hmm.
But the older one doesn't nap. So he would like consistently come in to discuss concerns and
Or give you a hug or tell you he loves you or look at this interesting thing he colored.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, all the things. So that was really hard. And then my husband's like, well, you can work after they go to bed. And I'm like, I am dead. I am dead.
Yeah. Like, why do they always suggest that? Like, I'm okay if you stay up later. Of course you're okay with that.
Sure.
Like, why is that your suggestion right now?
Like normally when I'm working, I get like 4,000 steps on my pedometer a day. While they were home, it was like between 10 and 12,000, like
Ugh.
every day.
Are they back
That's
in
all
daycare?
Huh?
Are they back in daycare now?
Yes. The
Oh.
second the governor was like, we're going to start thinking about opening the state of Tennessee, I was like calling the school, like, you guys are going back.
Ours were back last week, but our daycare didn't have enough interest because we're not as far along in our opening. Because we've got DC to the south, Annapolis to the east, and Baltimore to the north, and then Fort Meade, Maryland is to our west. So we have a very urban, incredibly population dense area. So Maryland's been a bit slower in their reopening. So our kids were at daycare last week. 1 week, well, two out of the 4 were, and it was still very nice. And then they were like, yeah, we can't stay open because just you guys are here.
Oh no.
It was really just our kids. And I was just like, dang it.
What are you going to
So
do?
yeah, my brother's coming to stay with us. So
Okay.
my youngest brother's 16 and he's going to come and help out because his school is out still. But man, I'm
Yeah. Their
envious.
days were actually never closed.
Oh, really?
Mm-mm.
Hmm.
No. They were stayed open for essential workers.
Okay, yeah, I have heard that too. We did have some who stayed open for essential workers, but I'm not it wasn't the ones that were closest to me, that's for sure. And anyway, I digress. We could probably have a whole podcast series on working from home and having kids.
Right.
Probably something to
So
consider. Maybe we could get some other moms and do a panel or something.
everybody was feeling it. So they were home for 6 weeks and then they went back at the beginning of May, the first week of May,
Mm.
the week they went back. So it's been about a month and a half that they've been back at school. And in our county, there's not a lot of active COVID cases, but overall with the quarantine, I have a course, which I think we're going to talk about a little bit later.
Yeah.
To teach RDs how to be writers. And I was trying to push the course during that time because it was like kind of a passive income.
Mm-hmm.
I can do a Facebook post while they're busy doing something. Like it was easy. And people kept telling me, your course is too expensive. Your course is too expensive. Like, we don't want to pay that right now because of like all the uncertainties with COVID. So what I decided to do, because I really wanted to sell that course, is I pulled out 3 modules out of the course, which were the
Mm-hmm.
3 modules about where to find clients. And I sold that as a mini course for $97. And I made $2,800 from like 20 minutes worth of work.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, we are talking courses in the next episode. So I am super excited to hear about that because
Yeah,
I'm
so
like, I
that's kind
need
of
this
how I
in my life.
shifted a little bit my business because I needed money. Like I just needed to make something and I
Yeah,
didn't have the time. I couldn't
that's
do
amazing.
anything.